The fire is back. Mars has entered Sagittarius, lighting up our collective quest for truth, freedom, and forward motion. Welcome to Planet Earth. Eliane Nicole, your astrologer and tarot reader, here bringing you the planetary ingresses to help you surf these cosmic currents with awareness, grace, and alignment. All times I mention are Pacific, so adjust for your time zone accordingly. In today's video, we are exploring Mars' 6-week journey through Sagittarius from November 4th to December 14th, 2025. We will look at how Mars expresses through this fiery sign, both personally and collectively, the major aspects he will make along the way, and how all of this plays out for each rising sign. Before we dive in, I would love your support in helping me grow this community. Please make sure to subscribe, hit the notification bell, and drop a like or a comment. It really helps me in the algorithm and allows me to continue offering these free astrology reports. I'm on a mission to reach 1,000 subscribers by Thanksgiving, so don't be a jive turkey. Share this channel with a friend who loves astrology or tarot. Every subscriber truly makes a difference. Now, without further ado, let's talk about Mars in Sagittarius. So Mars moves into Sagittarius Tuesday, November 4th at 5:01 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. Mars is our relationship to anger, desire. He rules our libido, drive, and action. In the body, he rules the muscles and the blood, how energy moves through us. He represents the way we pursue what we want, how we defend ourselves, and how we assert boundaries. In the people around us, Mars often symbolizes men, brothers, competitors, or protectors. In the world, he shows up through police, soldiers, activists, advocates, athletes, surgeons, butchers, and anyone who cuts through inertia to make things happen. When Mars activates sensitive areas of the chart, we may experience flare-ups, cuts, or even emotional inflammation, signals to slow down and move consciously. For the collective, Mars is also famously the god of war. When Mars moves through Sagittarius, he becomes the crusader. This is fire meeting fire, action driven by conviction. We want to move, to speak, to explore, to know why we are fighting. Mars in Sagittarius can make us bold and optimistic, but also impatient or self-righteous if we mistake belief for truth. The medicine is movement with meaning, letting passion fuel purpose instead of pride. On November 4th, a few hours after moving into Sagittarius, Mars immediately comes up on the opposition with Uranus retrograde in Gemini. This is one of the biggest transits of the quarter, a flashpoint between freedom and control, truth and rebellion. The last time Mars in Sagittarius opposed Uranus in Gemini was December 1941, a month that redefined the modern world. The Allied powers publicly acknowledged the Nazi policy of extermination against the Jews, the first international declaration recognizing genocide, while global war and technological innovation both accelerated. That same month saw the battles of Stalingrad and Guadalcanal, the Allied landings in North Africa, and the first self-sustaining nuclear chain reaction achieved in Chicago, humanity splitting the atom as it split itself. Now, in 2025, the echoes are unmistakable. Many nations are declaring what is happening in Gaza a genocide, and Trump has urged the Pentagon to resume nuclear weapons testing. Once again, we are witnessing the same archetypal tension: technological power, moral crisis, and the weaponization of belief. Personally, this aspect can bring sudden eruptions of truth, anger, or liberation, moments when you can no longer suppress what has been simmering. Collectively, it marks a volatile turning point: information wars, military escalation, and the confrontation between ideology and innovation. Because Mars is hosted by Jupiter in Cancer, emotional, protective, and tribal, and Uranus is hosted by Mercury in Sagittarius, slowing towards retrograde, Words and beliefs become weapons. The spiritual task is to use your fire to illuminate, not incinerate. On November 6th, Mars forms a sextile to Pluto in Aquarius, empowering focused change and purposeful action. Collectively, this supports technological reform and social activism grounded in courage rather than chaos. On November 8th, Mars trines Ceres retrograde in Aries. This is assertive self-care, reclaiming the right to fight for what truly nourishes you. On November 12th, Mars conjoins Mercury retrograde in Sagittarius. Words carry fire. This is the second in a series of 5 exact conjunctions that Mars and Mercury will make between now and April 2026. The first was October 19th in Scorpio. Next will be in Capricorn, Pisces, and then Aries. Each one marks a chapter in a 6-month storyline, the development of a mission, message, or mindset. If you want to track your progress, note what is surfacing now. This is about clarifying the goal your spirit is working toward. Collectively, expect unfiltered truths, leaks, or statements that shift public narratives. On November 19th, we have the new moon in Scorpio. Mars is not an aspect to this lunation, but he is its host, the quiet architect behind the scenes. The Scorpio new moon seeds a cycle of power, reclamation, and emotional honesty, with Mars's host Jupiter in Cancer squaring that moon, amplifying the emotional tides and intensity. There is a push-pull between the instinct to protect what is familiar and the call to evolve beyond old attachments. On November 21st, Mars sextiles Pallas Athene in Aquarius. Strategy meets strength. Visionary ideas find practical structure, leading to innovations in technology, collective planning, and justice. On November 24th, Mars forms a T-square with the nodes of fate, the North Node in Pisces, the South Node in Virgo, placing Mars at the apex in the bins with the nodes. Personally, this is a karmic pivot. Old patterns around control or criticism must yield to faith and flow. Collectively, this aspect can bring turning points in alliances, health systems, or climate decisions that redirect humanity towards compassion over perfection, and of course, war. On December 1st, Mars conjoins Juno in Sagittarius, igniting partnerships through shared missions or ideological clashes that reveal where loyalty lies. On December 5th, Mars trines Chiron retrograde in Aries. The warrior heals through action. Standing up for yourself or someone vulnerable releases an old wound so it can close clean. On December 8th, Mars squares Saturn direct in Pisces. This is a major checkpoint. Personally, it can feel like hitting a wall, deadlines, authority, or fatigue. Mars wants to sprint. Saturn says slow down and build. The opportunity is discipline, boundaries, and maturity in pursuit of vision. Collectively, this reflects government restrictions, military stalemates, or accountability measures surfacing after impulsive actions earlier in the month. Infrastructure or supply chain slowdowns are also possible as Saturn crystallizes what Mars tried to rush. On December 14th, Mars squares Neptune direct in Pisces before entering Capricorn that night at 11:33 p.m. Personally, confusion or burnout may surface. The path blurs. Collectively, this can manifest as propaganda campaigns, disinformation storms, or chemical and maritime incidents. Geologically, Mars-Neptune squares often coincide with floods, toxic spills, or seismic disturbances near water. As Mars crosses into Capricorn, clarity returns. We rebuild what the fog obscured, but that's another video for another day. Now, let's take it through the 12 rising signs. You can listen for your sun sign too, but the rising is going to be more accurate in describing the areas of life, and it will describe the entire 6-week journey, whereas listening to the sun is going to reflect something you might experience within a week of the journey when Mars is within 3 degrees of your sun, conjunct your sun, and separating from your sun. Both will be accurate and insightful in different ways, so I definitely encourage you to listen for both rising and sun. Aries rising, the journey begins with a jolt. Mars igniting your ninth house and opposing Uranus in your third, shaking up how you think, speak, or travel. Sudden information sparks a wider search for meaning. Launching a 6-week quest for truth. Midway through the transit, the Mercury and Juno conjunctions clarify your message and attract allies who share your vision. By early December, Mars squares Saturn and Neptune in your 12th house, reminding you to rest the mind and trust intuition. Faith becomes your compass as clarity returns. Taurus rising. Mars lights up your 8th house, beginning with an awakening around shared finances and intimacy as Uranus in your 2nd house rattles old attachments. What follows is a period of deep transformation, negotiations, vulnerability, and reclamation of personal power. The Mercury and Juno conjunctions invite honest dialogue, while the trine to Chiron opens a space for forgiveness. As Mars meets Saturn and Neptune in your 11th, you discern which communities truly support your growth and which drain your reserves. For Gemini rising, Mars moves through your 7th house, launching the cycle with the Uranian spark across your 1st, a relationship revelation that propels you toward self-definition. The weeks that follow bring clearer communication, especially near the Mercury conjunction, and opportunities to rebuild partnership dynamics from mutual freedom. Collaboration deepens under the Juno conjunction and Chiron trine. By the Saturn and Neptune squares in your 10th house, boundaries between career demands and personal alliance require balance. Integrity in both brings peace. Cancer rising, Mars opens its 6-week passage in your 6th house with a wake-up call from Uranus in your 12th, exposing hidden stressors or habits that undermine your vitality. The mid-month aspects encourage reorganization. Pluto and Pallas favor smarter systems. Mercury and Juno highlight communication with coworkers or healers. The Chiron trine supports sustainable routines that serve body and spirit. As Mars squares Saturn and Neptune in your 9th, beliefs and long-term goals come into focus. Faith grounded in structure sustains the progress you have made. Leo rising. Mars lights up your 5th house of creativity and joy, beginning with Uranus in your 11th, sparking surprises in group settings or collaborations. Inspiration strikes, and the middle stretch of the transit help you channel that fire. Mercury and Juno unite to clarify creative partnerships, while the Chiron trine in Aries restores confidence in your craft. By the time Mars squares Saturn and Neptune in your 8th, questions about shared resources or emotional vulnerability arise. Authentic self-expression becomes the bridge between passion and trust. Virgo rising, Mars moves through your 4th house of home and family, starting with a Uranian jolt in your 10th house of career. So career or authority shifts ripple into your foundation. The following weeks bring purposeful rebuilding. Mercury and Juno open important family dialogues, while the Pluto and Pallas sextiles inspire long-term strategy for stability. The Chiron trine aids emotional release and healing. When Mars squares Saturn and Neptune in your 7th, partnerships ask for maturity and clear agreements. Structure makes safety sustainable. Libra rising, Mars begins in your 3rd house, opposing Uranus in your 9th, shaking up travel, studies, or belief systems. The first week cracks open curiosity. By mid-month, Mercury and Juno empower eloquence and negotiation, turning insight into action. Pluto and Pallas refine your strategy, while the Chiron trine eases strained communication. As Mars squares Saturn and Neptune in your 6th, work pace and wellness routines need refining. Mental clarity depends on mindful rhythm. Scorpio rising, Mars ignites your 2nd house of money and self-worth, starting with Uranus in your 8th, rattling shared finances or emotional dependencies. The middle stretch brings productive momentum. Mercury and Juno enhance collaboration, and the Chiron trine restores confidence in your earning power. Pluto and Pallas support smart investments. When Mars squares Saturn and Neptune in your fifth, creative expression and pleasure require balance with discipline. Value yourself enough to create from authenticity, not approval. Sagittarius rising, Mars marching through your first house, begins with the Uranus opposition from your seventh, relationship fireworks that awaken self-awareness. What follows is 6 weeks of redefinition. Mercury and Juno in your sign help articulate new goals, while Pluto and Pallas strengthen your leadership voice. The Chiron trine boosts courage and purpose. As Mars closes the cycle with Saturn and Neptune in your fourth house, grounding the emotional honesty and become the foundation for sustained independence. Capricorn rising, Mars travels your 12th house, opening with a Uranian disruption in your 6th. Unpredictable work or health developments remind you to rest. The middle weeks are deeply introspective. Mercury and Juno spotlight subconscious patterns, while the Chiron trine provides gentle closure. Creative or spiritual projects thrive behind the scenes. When Mars squares Saturn and Neptune in your third, boundaries around communication protect the serenity you have cultivated. Aquarius rising, Mars energizes your 11th house of community and vision, kicking off with surprises from Uranus in your fifth that reshape your creative direction or social circle. Midway through, Mercury and Juno bring fruitful collaboration, while the Pluto and Pallas sextiles sharpen long-range strategy. The Chiron trine opens meaningful dialogue among allies. As Mars squares Saturn and Neptune in your second, value and resources become focal. Align ideals with realistic commitments for lasting progress. And Pisces rising, Mars climbs through your 10th house of career and calling, beginning with a Uranus spark in your fourth that reorients home and emotional priorities. The middle phase fuels momentum. Mercury and Juno help articulate professional goals, and the Chiron trine rebuilds your confidence in leadership. As December unfolds, Mars squares Saturn and Neptune in your first house, marking a powerful moment of self-definition. Clarity, boundaries, and rest restore the vision you are building towards. For the more detailed rising sign by rising sign breakdown, subscribe to my Substack, Keys to the Cosmos, where I will go even deeper into how Mars in Sagittarius will uniquely show up for you. But the most unique is always to book a one-on-one reading with me. You can do so by going to eliannicole.com, also listed in the description notes. I'm not on TikTok, I'm on YouTube, the description. In conclusion, life is lifing, the world is worlding. Stay heavily meditated, my friends.